in listen-only mode.
Hi, Dr. Sally here. We're going to get started in just a few minutes, but I wanted to introduce myself. I'm so pleased that you could join me for Flourishing Fully Lyme Secrets. This information is not for Lyme disease only. It's for any chronic disease. As a matter of fact, it's for anybody who wants to be well, stay well, feel well. So come join me. Flourishing Fully Lyme Secrets recovery is in your reach. I want to welcome you all and thank you. Some very special, kind words that you've been sending to me. I am so grateful for them. And thank you for taking time out of your busy day or your busy schedule to listen to Flourishing Fully Lyme Secrets, Flourishing Fully Health Secrets. I'm Dr. Sally Schutz. I'm a board-certified ophthalmic surgeon, retired. I was trained at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. I finished in 1975, so that's 40 years ago. And I retired from ophthalmology because of a life-threatening car accident. I'm a shaman and a healer. I studied herbs, homeopathy, and quantum energy. And I'm passionate for the mitochondria. So I've been coaching and healing people for 40 years, and I'm continuing it in this broadcast. My plans for this morning are to tell you a little bit about my journey and to talk about Lyme, to talk about the mitochondria, and give you 7 tips that we are going to talk about. A lot has to do with the mitochondria. We want to protect them and resuscitate them and revitalize them. So my journey began in 2003. I had life cell microscopy just by synchrodestiny at a conference that I was attending. And Dr. Robert Bradford told me that I had chronic Lyme disease. I didn't worry. I wasn't taught about Lyme disease in medical school. It was before it became recognized. I took herbs, I studied it, and I took herbs, and I thought I was doing pretty well, except that I didn't pay any attention to the fact that I was falling down, making poor decisions, OCD, terrible OCD, chronic cough, insomnia, palpitations. As a matter of fact, over the 13, 14 years that I had this problem, I had probably close to 60 different symptoms. Then in about 2010, I tried IV ozone. I know IV ozone is used successfully by some people, but for me, it sent me into a terrible tailspin. I became morbidly depressed. I developed a chronic vomiting syndrome. I threw up. I retched. I gagged for 4.5 years, at least once every day. I had intractable bladder pain and frequency that kept me tied to my apartment. It was all I was in survival mode. Then on July 4th, 2014, I was visiting my life partner, Bane, my hero, and my throat closed off. He rushed me to St. Paul's Hospital, where I was placed in a drug-induced coma, and Nothing grew out on routine culture, and I didn't respond to steroids. So time just allowed my throat to heal a little bit, and they were able to pull out all the tubes in the breathing tube. And when I went home, frankly, I was in despair. I'd gone to Mexico, I'd gone to Canada for treatments. I tried many different protocols, and I just didn't know what I was going to do next. I was really consumed with fear. And then I got an email. I wouldn't have ordinarily opened up the email because it was about, the title was Chronic Obstructive Pulmonary Disease, but my girlfriend had just told me that her mother was diagnosed with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, so I wanted to see what it was all about. And even though I was in a terrible brain fog, I wanted to watch it, and I did. And it was the story of Dan, who had recovered from terrible chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and was now leading a very full and energetic life. Bain researched it and found that this product wasn't just good for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, it was good for Lyme disease. And what do chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and Lyme have in common? They're both mitochondria deficiency diseases. So we reached the protocol, and I decided to go for it. And on the day that I started the protocol, I promised that when I got well, I would educate, inspire, and collaborate with people on their health, and that's what I'm doing with you today. I want to guide you with practical and actionable things, ways of thinking, ways of eating, ways of doing. Most all will be convenient, low hassle, doable. They're all coming from a loving space. Some are esoteric and expensive, but you should know about them. So let's begin with Flourishing Fully Lyme Secrets. So what is Lyme? Lyme is a soup of filterable stealth bacteria transmitted by a tick, a mosquito, spiders, there's sexual contact, and it's a soup that creates a soup of symptoms in the body. It can be anywhere in the body, in any of the systems, in any of the organs. And Lyme, they're pleomorphic because they change shape. They can, when under attack or under stress, they can lose their cell walls. They can go from a spirochete, a corkscrew, to a cyst. They are masters at hiding. They can, when under attack, hide in the brain or in tissues, and when the threat is over, they come back and wreak havoc. Why is it so hard to treat Lyme when it's chronic? Because it is the soup, and because they are pleomorphic, and because they go into hiding. The same way that it's hard to diagnose, it can be hard as well to treat. So in order to tell you what the mitochondria are, the cells of the body, there are about 35 trillion, that's with a T, cells, and almost all of the cells have organelles, or little specialized structures inside. One of them is called the mitochondrion, and together they're called the mitochondria. And the mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cell. They create the energy. And that's terribly important, but as important as that is, they also create free radicals. And free radicals, a lot of us have been exposed to. Reactive oxygen species, they're the causes of inflammation, they're the causes of aging, the cause of pain. Well, and that's what we take antioxidants for, but we can't take them away altogether. They have important signaling functions. The mitochondria will signal, they perceive the environment, and then they send a message um, uh, to signal different parts of the cell in different functions. And one of their very important functions is um, cell lifespan. Cell lifespan. The mitochondria will help the cell to self-destruct. It's called autophagy. Some people call it cell suicide. I think cell destruction is better. And they do away with unhealthy mitochondria and unhealthy cell components and healthy cells. This is what happens in cancer, is that the cell doesn't get the right signal to self-destruct, so the cells become immortal and form a tumor. Then, of course, it's more complicated than that with blood supply, but that's just to give you the concept. So mitochondria are very important. They're dynamic, bean-shaped kind of structures. We talk about them being bean-shaped, but they're constantly on the move and they're constantly dividing. So they're quite dynamic. The things that damage the mitochondria are, there's a huge list. Some of the things that damage the mitochondria are the herbicides, fungicides, the pesticides. Roundup. Roundup is very toxic to the mitochondria. Roundup is the Monsanto agent, glyphosate, and its surfactants. It's other products. Now, you cannot wash Roundup off. People say, "Oh, I'm just going to wash the fruit and it'll be fine." No, it gets into the things it's sprayed in, and you can't wash it off. Vaccines, EMFs, lack of sleep, stress, they all damage the mitochondria. Chemical toxins. So what we want to do to be healthy is to resuscitate the mitochondria, to protect them, to revitalize them. And there's a lot of things that we can do. My webinar is designed to improve your health and to raise the quality of your life, to get you to smile more, to get you to be more confident, to get you more energy, to get you pain-free. How many of you want to be pain-free? To get you back alive. I know when I had chronic Lyme, I was in survival mode. Now I have a life. I mean, I make plans. I do the stuff that I used to do. Anyone need help in that arena? So this is important. I'm not going to be giving you individual medical advice. I'm giving you a blueprint of the 7 things that I did, and actually probably a lot more than 7 things that will support your mitochondria, reduce your pain, help your sleep, eliminate your Lyme. It's a multi-directional approach. When I broke my arm and I developed a chronic pain syndrome, I not only did acupuncture as often as I could, and I mean as often as I could, I did physical therapy, I did massage, I bought gadgets to do my own physical therapy. I traveled with an edema pump that breast cancer patients use to pump the fluid out of my hand. I used a lot of different techniques. So the first tip that I want to talk about is diet. Diet is a big topic because it involves clean food. What is clean food? Would you knowingly eat damaged, dirty food? Well, surprising number of people do. And actually, some people say diet. Why is that a Lyme secret or a health secret? Well, it must be because there's so few people doing it. I mean, I'm in a community. My friends that I enjoy hanging out with are all health conscious, but I have friends who are not health conscious, and I'm just shocked at what they consume unconsciously, without thought. And I'd like to teach you about clean food. And in doing so, why it's important, what it does to you that will either create health or create pain, feel good or be in survival mode. So clean fuel is important in the category of clean food. And clean fuel means not eating bad carbs. What are bad carbs? Bad carbs are sugar, cake, donuts, pancakes, anything with empty calories in it. Why pancakes? Because I don't know too many people who eat the pancake without putting some sugar on it and some syrup on it and some sticky stuff on it. The sugar creates reactive oxygen species in our mitochondria. They create free radicals. And you want to control your blood sugar. You want to control the production of free radicals. You want to eat clean fuel. That would be carbohydrates that are high in fiber, like broccoli, like cauliflower. Those are clean carbs. You want to eliminate the bad carbs. You want to eat high quality saturated fatty acids like avocados and coconut oil, organic nuts and organic seeds. These are the fuels that the mitochondria are most efficient with. They create the most ATP and produce the fewer radical oxygen species. So these are really important. You want to have clean water. You know, the chemicals that are in the air and the pharmaceuticals that are being flushed into the toilet and the all the toxins, the heavy metals that are in our water make it dirty. And you have to get a really high quality water filter to clean your water now. You want to eat fermented foods. This is really important, supporting your microbiome. No dead food, no processed food. If your great-grandmother wouldn't recognize it as food, don't eat it. And then there's the peak energy diet for, don't be worried about peak. It's really a question of an energy diet or a mitochondria diet. When to eat, that's really important. We don't want to eat 3 hours before we go to bed. That's a time when your body is going into rest mode. You don't want to fuel up the mitochondria. Where's that energy going to go? So you don't want to eat 3 hours before you go to bed. Now, that may interfere with your social life, but I teach about it, how to deal with that. Become a leader. Tell people why you're not eating late at night. Can you eat a little bit earlier? When they see that you're doing better and that you've recovered and that you're thriving, they're going to want to join your type of eating habits. It's important. And I don't eat for, I stop eating about 6:30, and then I don't eat until maybe 9:30, maybe 10 o'clock the next morning. There is a sophisticated way of measuring your blood sugar to know when to resume eating. But, you have to be practical. A lot of you have responsibilities that you have to attend to. But in my program, breakfast is not the biggest day of the biggest, the most important meal of the day, as we have been brainwashed on TV. So what you eat, we've known about this since for millennia. Hippocrates told us that we are what we eat. So I like this little picture. You are what you eat. So don't be fast, don't be easy, and don't be cheap or fake. Alkalinize your system. This is really important. I like to drink green juices to alkalinize my system. You can make them your own. Now there are so many places that you can buy them from. What are the optimal levels of protein for someone who's in pain? What's the optimal level of protein for someone who is in a brain fog? This is really important to know, because there is a pathway in the cell that converts protein to sugar, and you want to downregulate this. You want to prevent this by controlling the amount of protein you eat. It should be about 1 gram per kilogram of lean body mass. And this is really important. Chew your food. Oh my gosh, I am now the last one to be eating at the table. People just inhale their food. Now, trust me, I did this, particularly going to medical school. You had to inhale your food. You never knew when you were going to get called on an important mission, helping someone. So you want to take supplements that support the mitochondria. There are a lot of them. The one that I'm going to mention today is coenzyme Q10 in the form of ubiquinol. 100 milligrams would be the starting place. For many of you, you will do well on higher dosage. But go slow. Take your time. It didn't take you a day or overnight to get into the pickle that you're in, and now you're going to get yourself out. Probiotics. Probiotics are very important. How do you know what's a good probiotic? Do you read the label? Do you go by the count? Well, I just attended a lecture by an expert in probiotics, and the amount of detail and attention that goes into a good probiotic. I do not recommend a lot of good things at Costco, CVS. I don't necessarily recommend their generic brand. There's a lot of science that goes into probiotic, and it is worth having a good probiotic and good supporting your microbiome. They're really important. Omega-3s. Omega-3s are important for all the membranes in the body, the membrane of the cell, the membrane of the nucleus, the membrane of the mitochondria, all important. And the ratio of omega-3s, when they brought in trans fat and processed foods, our ratio of omega-3s to omega-6s got out of balance. So we've got to get that back in tow. You've got to eat healthy and eliminate the processed foods and eliminate trans fats. B vitamins. That's an example where that we need to support, because the bad bacteria in our body and our gut have depleted our stores of it in the liver. So we've got to supplement with B12. Now, I do not recommend getting cheap B12, because the best form is hydroxycobalamin. The cyanocobalamin type is not supportive of help, and you'll find that the cyanocobalamin is pretty common. So don't fall into that trap. Vitamin D is healthy. And you need more than is in your multivitamin. If you're on pharmaceuticals, you want to know their side effects. This is so important. 1/3 of Americans, adult Americans, are on a pharmaceutical for their cholesterol that actually debilitates the mitochondria by reducing the amount of coenzyme Q10 that's available. This is terrible. We need our coenzyme Q10. Tip 2. Detoxification. The sauna. This is really good for getting impurities, toxins out of the skin. But the waste that's eliminated is determined by the size of your pores. Enemas are good, but a lot of people can't hold enemas, myself included, and it doesn't have the soaking value that colon hydrotherapy has. There are cleanses by mouth, but if you have a clogged system, where is those cleanses for your liver and your gallbladder? Where are they going in the clogged system? You don't know. So then there's colon hydrotherapy. Colon hydrotherapy has been done for ages. There's not much research about it because bowel health in the United States has kind of been frowned on since the early the 1920s or 30s. But it's a remarkable technique of putting gently flowing, filtered, temperature-controlled water into the colon and allowing it to, if it's by a soaking method, you can actually get the small intestine to download its caked-on products. That's a lot to do about the GI system, the gastrointestinal system. I talk about it in the webinar, and it's very enlightening. Most of us have parasites in the body. This is one. They have their own frequency. They have their own waste. And it's always good to get them out. This is another, it's called chunks. We call it chunks. And they line the cell walls. They line the walls of the small intestine, making the lumen, the hole that the digested food material travels through, smaller. This is very hard to remove, and it's toxic. We know it's toxic because as it passes through the rectum, it's burning, it's hot, and it's great to get out. Everybody is always relieved. So the amount of toxins that are removed in colon hydrotherapy, the eggs, the parasites, the worms, the fungus, the digested food, the worm byproducts, it's just huge. I would be talking about where the wastes are accumulated in the body, in the small intestines, during the full webinar series. Tip number 3, special quiet time. It is being still, but it's more than being still. It's aligning yourself with nature. Now, sometimes when you're still, you're out there and chatter in your mind is going. But the idea is to tap into the abundance, the pure potentiality of the universe. In science now, in quantum physics, they now know that space is filled with waves and with energy, and this energy has certain responses. So I teach about that during the webinar, and it's important to know because it will improve your health and improve your life. Now, special quiet time, I honor meditation and the people who do a structured form with a hand position and seated in a certain way. But when you're ill, sometimes you can't muster up that strength. And sometimes all you can do is just go to the window, observe nature, breathe deeply, become part of it. Align yourself with nature. Align yourself with the magnificence of it all. That power that creates a baby, that power that creates a piece of fruit on the tree, the power that creates these magnificent sunsets and sunrises, that gives bird flights and have them in certain patterns, all of this. So align yourself with nature. It's not tuning out, it's tuning in. Tip 4, positivity. Gratitude is positivity. Every day I am grateful, and I say I'm grateful. I think it. I look in the mirror and with a smile, think the thoughts of gratitude. I was taught growing up that opposites attract. But in the latter part of my life, I've learned about the law of attraction, and the law of attraction, which all the spiritual leaders and many scientists now say that negativity begets negativity. Positivity begets positivity. Even in the Bible, it says, whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. You know, I used to think that meant my actions had to be honest and with integrity. Now I know it's my thoughts have to be that way. I have to have integrity of my thoughts. I have to eliminate the chatter in my mind and align myself with nature. A lot of that has to do with forgiveness. One of the best ways to make progress is with forgiveness. I am not my mistakes. I am not my illness, and I shower myself with love. No negativity. This is not a light switch. This is a process. Much like Michelangelo created a masterpiece from a block of marble, we chisel away at it. We chisel away at the negativity. We chisel away at all the things that hold us back from flourishing fully. And that's an interesting thing why I call it flourishing fully. When I was in recovery from this chronic illness, I would never, when people ask me how I'm doing, I'd never go into a discourse about what was wrong with me. I would say I am flourishing fully because that is what I wanted to attract. People could read my body language. They could read the way I was dressed and the way I held myself. I was not going to acknowledge any of the symptoms. I only was going to acknowledge positivity. I teach the stop technique. This is a technique I learned from Deepak. It's so effective. It involves stop, S, T, 3 deep breaths, really deep breaths. I talk about deep breaths. Filling your lungs stops the chatter, changes the biochemistry of your body. Do it 3 times. It puts you in another space. Step away from yourself emotionally, mentally. Say, who's talking this negative talk to me? What is it that who is it that's talking to me that way? And then P, Pleasure yourself with love. I just love this picture, as though you're being embraced, as though you're receiving love from the universe, to feel well, to be well. Train yourself like you would train a baby. A baby doesn't, get up and just take off the first time it's learning to stand. It's a process. Gets up, he falls down, he gets up a little longer, he falls down a little less, and then he's standing up. And then he's holding on walking. A couple of steps, he falls down. A couple of steps, he falls down, and then he's walking without holding on, and then finally he runs. This is what you have to do with this recovery process. Train yourself to flourish fully. Tip 5. I group this together under quantum physics energy because I know a lot of you want to know what I did to recover, what was the keystone, and this as well assisted my recovery. It was the keystone. It's the BX energy catalyst. It was what it looks like. For cancer patients, it can be in a injectable. You spray it under your tongue, under the supervision of the Delta Institute. You report to them daily, and they report to you on how much you should be taking, and they monitor your symptoms. And it's a remarkable program for healing. It's made up of a highly dilute fructose substance. It has had energy waves. It's placed in a variant energy chamber, and energy is aimed at it and absorbed by the molecules. These energy waves are based on the science of Warburg, a Nobel Prize winner, Royal Rife, a genius in electrophysics, Tesla. Tesla had innovative ideas on health and energy, and in fact, he was a mystic. So this is the BX protocol. You can go to bxprotocol.com, see a lot of information. It is a 21st century energy catalyst program. It incorporates a lifestyle of diet and other things. I believe it saved my life, so I am an advocate. It is not for everybody because of the expense. It's about $17,000 for a 2-year access to the energy catalyst, 1 under supervision, 1 year that is not supervised. That works out to be about $25 a day. Probably I spent more than $25 a day in the searching for different things that work. This works. There's also something called GCMAF. It's a very controversial substance, and it's cannot be obtained in the U.S. You have to order it online from outside the U.S., and I think it is equally as expensive. Then there's the energy work of people like Donna Eden. Donna Eden is fun. She's amazing. You can find her on YouTube. I will walk you through the energy tips that I think are helpful. This is one in particular. This is called the hookup. You can do it to yourself. You can do it to someone else. It aligns 2 of the major meridians in the body, and it's simply putting your 3rd finger of one hand in between your eyebrow, on that chakra, and one on your belly button of the other hand, 3rd finger, and just breathe and smile. This aligns 2 major meridians of energy in the body. It balances you. It helps you sleep. It helps your mood. Simple. Really nice. Tip 6, no doubt. You cannot have any doubt during your recovery and in life. You have to stay positive. Uh, I have by my side a book that I've had for 20, I don't know, maybe 30 years, called You Cannot Afford the Luxury of a Negative Thought by John Roger and Peter McWilliams. I mean, it's been known for a long time. You cannot, and now we know that quantum physics supports this information, you cannot tolerate a negative thought. They must be positive. Now, don't get me wrong. I've been terribly depressed. I know that that's no easy feat, but you've got to chisel it away, just like Michelangelo chiseling a block of marble. And I have tips, even with depression, to help you do this. It's one step at a time. Be impeccable with your word. This is the writing of Don Miguel Ruiz. I always thought that meant be honest, be truthful, have integrity when you spoke. And in fact, I had an aha moment where it's impeccable with your word means don't use any words, don't use any thoughts that are negative. Be positive. What you think, you attract. It's a mirror. So you must filter what you think. Make your prayers a manifestation of what you will be like, as though you are already healthy. This is just such a beautiful concept. How energetic will you be? How will it show on you? What will you be doing? What do you hear yourself saying? What are the things that you will say to congratulate yourself, or other people will say to you when you're doing the things that you want to do? Do you associate feeling better with some fragrance? Maybe the fresh sea air. What will your recovery smell like? Do all these make it a multisensory experience of how you will feel when you, as though you are already recovered. Align yourself with the pure potentiality of the universe. Say, I am well. I am flourishing fully. Say it with enthusiasm. Say it with a smile. Wayne Dyer said, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. You'll see it when you believe it. I actually have a shirt I wear that says that. It's awesome. Quantum physics supports this. We are creators in life. We are not bystanders. You create the way you live. Things in your subconscious can be holding you back in the health arena. You know, we're programmed like a TiVo or a DVR player with information and attitudes by our parents, our families, our culture, from the time we're in utero, maybe before, and until we're 6 or 7 years old. It's a form of imprinting. So our subconscious limitations can hold us back. One woman said, my parents were very loving. Yes, but loving parents say silly things. I was in the post office, and there was a woman there with an adorable boy, appropriately behaved, appropriately curious, just a delight, waiting in line. And his mother said, he isn't always this well behaved. Instead of saying, yes, I've got a great son. He's just a joy. There was this subtle negative manipulation of information given to our subconscious. But there are ways to help that. And I can help you with that. Tip number 7 is CBD oil. CBD oil is hemp-derived CBD oil. It's a cousin to marijuana, but hemp does not have any THC, less than 0.3% THC. Now, a lot of you may have been hearing about the amazing progress that marijuana has made in helping people recover from cancer and recover from seizures and health, supporting mood and sleep and metabolism and bones. It does indeed. We have in our bodies an endocannabinoid system, a system inside of us. It's composed of substances that we make called endocannabinoids, meaning they look like cannabis, and we have receptors that are filled by these cannabinoid-like cannabis-like compounds. And this system is very important. It's the master control system. It controls homeostasis for all the other systems in the body, the hormones, the neurotransmitters, the brain system, the immune system, the hormone system, metabolism, sleep. It's just amazing. Mother Nature has provided us a combination of cannabinoids and terpenes in a non-psychoactive compound, hemp-derived CBD oil, that you can take to support your endocannabinoid system. A lot of people say to me, well, if it's so amazing, how come I haven't heard of it? Well, unfortunately, hemp was maligned along with marijuana in the 1930s. The DuPonts didn't want competition from hemp. It's an amazing, strong fiber. They didn't want competition for their synthetic fibers, so they squelched it. And Randolph Hearst had a paper and forest industry to protect, so he banished hemp-derived oil. In other words, he was in contact with important people who could banish it. And then, of course, the pharmaceutical industry, they wanted control of it. So while your great-grandmother probably had it in her medicine cabinet in the States, they banished it. They associated it with negativity and prejudice, and it was banished. But it's back, and it's available, and I teach about it. I'm passionate for hemp-derived CBD oil because I think it's so wrong that the American public has been deprived from that agricultural product as well as the healing benefits of it. Hemp-derived CBD oil. There's going to be an explosion of information and an explosion of companies that make it. And you want to know which company makes a good oil. Disclaimer, I have my own brand along with Bain. It's called Best Can CBD oil because we wanted it to be the best cannabinoid oil available. It is grown organically. It's harvested and undergoes a special process by CO2 decarboxylation. So I know a lot about it, and I've selected a really healthy, the best cannabis product that I could make, and I offer that to you. So we've gone through 7 things that I'll be teaching about in the webinar: food, diet, supplements, exercise. I've given you some tips, unique tips on each one of them: detoxification, special quiet time, positivity, the new quantum physics energy. You know, my daughter said, Mom, all this stuff is kind of woo-woo. I mean, I can't believe you're trained as a scientist. You know, science advances. The science of the 1700s was not the same as the 1800s. And the science of the 21st century is different too. and I've embraced it, and I want to teach it to you. So no doubt, Flourishing Fully CBD oil, it's a 7-week webinar with wonderful tips. I call them Flourishing Fully Lyme tips. It's Flourishing Fully health tips. It's Flourishing Fully energy tips. And it's not just for Lyme, it's for anyone who wants to resuscitate, protect, and revitalize their mitochondria. It's only $19.95 now. I did this because of the Lyme Summit, and because so many of you have spent so much money on your Lyme journey, your health journeys. Even the pharmaceutical industry makes people pay a lot of money for these experimental drugs. Well, $19.95, you can get a lot of amazing information. In June, the price is going up to $197 because of all the time, all the expertise, all the information that's involved. So buy it now as a benefit from the Lyme Summit. There's no risk. You have a money-back guarantee at 4 weeks. If you don't like the information I've given you, you haven't learned a lot, you haven't been inspired and supported, then by all means write us and we'll give you back your money, no hassle. There'll be free gifts during the program, a raffle for a 30-minute consultation with me. The value is $500. Yes, that's how my time is valued. There will be a raffle for a prayer shawl, the same kind that I used in my recovery from the Panoka Unified Church. It's a non-denominational church. There'll be bonuses like the Flourishing Fully gratitude sheet. There'll be an interactive Facebook group. I know the power of prayer. Did you know there are actually 5 types of prayer? And I know, based on ancient sacred writings, which is the most effective form of prayer. And I'll teach that. And the participants in this webinar will have group support from each other with prayer. So all the information, all the bonuses, there'll even be time for questions and answers for $19.95. An awesome 7-week program. That's the link. I know you can't copy it. You can go to flourishingfully.com/programs, and you can find the 7-week webinar there. If not, just write us at caring@flourishingfully.com for inquiry how to participate. I want to thank you. I want to thank you all for joining me. I'm going to see if I can come back on here. Thank you so much for being with me, learning with me, letting me educate you, let me support your journey in health. Flourish fully.